Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into what is arguably the most practical question in all of counseling: who is God? For the focused learners out there joining us, we're drawing directly from Chapter 2 of David Powlisson's incredible framework to really look at how our functional beliefs about God shape our everyday lives, our fears, and our hopes.
I want to kick things off right away with a deeply personal question from the source material. What do you reach for when God seems too slow, too hidden, or too quiet? Man, just let that sink in for a second. Hold on to that question in the back of your mind as we move forward today. Section 1. The most practical question. Who is God? Okay, let's dive into this. We aren't here today to just master some dry, academic, theological topic from a safe distance, right? Instead, we're looking at the actual doorway through which Scripture searches us. It's about learning to stand under the truth until it changes the way we see God, ourselves, and the people we want to help. David Powlisson has this amazing insight where he states, every problem has God in it somewhere. And you know why is that? Well, it's because a person's functional picture of God literally colors every fear they carry and every single choice they make. Just think about it in everyday terms. If you functionally view God as this cruel taskmaster, a simple mistake at work might send you into an absolute spiral of anxiety because you're terrified of punishment. But if you functionally view him as a safe, compassionate father, that exact same mistake becomes an opportunity for growth and grace. Your view of God is never just a tangent to the problem. Honestly, it's usually the very heart of it. Section 2. Professed versus functional. The gods we trust. So this brings us to a really core dilemma: the universal human gap between the theology we confidently claim to believe and the reality we actually live out when we're put under pressure. You see, we all have a professed God. This is the sincere Sunday confession, the I trust the Lord moments of clarity that are absolutely true and meant to govern our whole self. But then Tuesday happens. When life gets heavy on a random Tuesday afternoon, a functional God emerges. We might functionally seek refuge in entirely different things, craving approval from our peers, grasping for control in chaotic situations, or just desperately seeking comfort, success, and safety to numb the stress. It's an absolutely crucial, compassionate distinction we need to make here. Seeking a functional refuge in things like control or escape doesn't make a person a fraud. It just makes them painfully human in the biblical sense. We're creatures whose hearts are always trying to take shelter somewhere. When the storm hits, our first instinct is to run under the nearest awning, even if it's a flimsy awning of our own making, rather than the solid rock we profess to trust. Section 3. Asking X-ray questions. So how exactly do we uncover these hidden refuges? Well, we use diagnostic tools called X-ray questions. Just like the name implies, these questions look way beneath a person's outward behavior to expose the actual motives, the hidden fears, and those functional gods that are truly governing someone's actions. These questions are designed to look right past the surface-level struggle, say an argument about finances or an ongoing battle with a bad habit, so we can actually name the cosmic battle happening in the heart's deepest desires. It's the ultimate battle between trusting the Creator versus trusting the creation to deliver the peace and security we so desperately crave. It's honestly amazing how simple verbs can unlock such profound truths. Let's look at a basic relational verb like love. Turn that into the question, what do you love? And suddenly it exposes our ruling desires. Are we loving praise more than people? When trust becomes whom do you trust, it reveals our functional refuges. Are we trusting our bank account or our intellect to keep us safe? And when seek turns into what are you seeking, it uncovers our daily motives. Taking these simple verbs and turning them into questions perfectly exposes exactly where our worship has strayed from the giver of the gifts straight to the gifts themselves. Section 4. The counselor's posture, the log in my own eye. Now, before we try to help anyone else with these X-ray questions, we really have to shift the focus inward. There is a huge pastoral caution here. Do not identify idols with a smug eye. The counselor kneels before interpreting another person. We must never, ever misuse these heart questions as some sort of spiritual surveillance or just detached clinical analysis. Doing this right requires immense humility. Because of that, we have to actively avoid a few common pitfalls. First, we shouldn't use Scripture as a decorative proof text after we've already made up our minds about someone's problem. We must never turn someone's vulnerability into harsh exposure or act with hurried certainty. And perhaps most importantly, we can never divide truth from tenderness. When truth lacks tenderness, it just feels like a weapon, and defensiveness is the natural response. But truth delivered with tender care, that becomes a balm that actually heals. These concepts absolutely have to pass through our own humility and prayer first, because a counselor who doesn't allow truth to become personal is eventually going to become mechanical or performative, and neither of those postures can sustain wise care. Section 5. Realigning under grace. Closing the gap.
So, how do we actually close that gap between the God we profess on Sunday and the functional gods we trust on Tuesday? Let's move to the movement of wise care and see how this all builds. It follows 5 steps: listen, clarify, interpret, speak, and practice. Notice the exact order of those steps. Wise love always slows down to listen and clarify long before it attempts to speak or interpret. It's a fluid movement. It's not a rigid formula. It's all about walking alongside someone and making absolutely sure they are truly heard before you ever try to guide them toward change. And as we go through those steps, Scripture serves as our living frame. Passages like Exodus 34, Isaiah 40, Psalm 115, and Matthew 6, these aren't just verses to quote at someone. They're deep, resonant truths that give us a framework to reorient the entire soul. They remind us of the God who names himself, the God of immense power who tends his flock like a shepherd. They remind us that God's covenantal love receives us exactly as we are, in all our messiness for sure, but he is far too deeply committed to our ultimate good to just leave us there without real, lasting transformation. To summarize our core message today, grace works over a lifetime to make our professed God and our functional God one and the same. This realignment isn't a quick fix or some neat little psychological trick. It's a patient process of grace. We dethrone our fears, not by pretending that the dangers out there are small, but by introducing the human heart to a much truer, larger, and far more protective presence. I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to really search you as you continue your studies. When I imagine being fully seen by God, what rises first? Comfort? Fear? Resistance? Or relief? Or maybe something even more difficult to name? Let that sit with you. Thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer today, and keep learning.